Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Cliff from To Animation here, and we're going to go ahead and start off with our next part of this series. If you've been following this series as it's coming out, I apologize for it not being coming out right after each other. But this time I decided to make sure that I recorded all of them at once and then released it. So if you're following as soon as it's uploaded, just know that all the episodes are coming up pretty quickly. So I thank you for your patience. All right, so in the last video, we went ahead and we added a little bit more moves to the combo here, right? So we have a full little choreography here. We added a little combo. So now the next step is going to be adding another character to go ahead and be the opposite to our character here. So we have another version of this. You can just go ahead and use the same character, but if you do want to use the character that I have, you can go ahead and find that in the link in the description. So we're going to go ahead and import him. Okay, so this one's a red one, or a soft red, whichever color that is. So we're going to the same thing we did when we set up this character, is add the curves, right? Add the curves into a character set. So we're going to move our character here, select all of the controls here, create my character set, and it's going to be the X-Bot. All right, so before I go ahead and continue, something that I mentioned before is that when I switch to a different, from IK to FK, whatever wasn't selected isn't added into the character set. So if you see anything that's yellow is in the character set, so if I click here, it's yellow, it's in the character set. Anything that's not selected is not in the character set that is part of the character. And we're going to need this. So let's say if we go ahead and set keys onto our character, we want to make sure that it keys on everything instead of just the ones that are there. So from here, I'm going to switch this as well. Switch this. And what that does is then I'm going to select, it's just a few extra steps. I'm going to then select the controls here, highlight this all, and add to character set. There we go. All right, so now from here, we're gonna go ahead and start setting our poses here. So the first pose that's on frame, frame 1 or frame 0? Frame 1. So on frame 1, we're gonna set our character facing, our opponent. And very similar to the other lessons from before, we're going to start setting up our poses. So we're going to set up our feet first. We still have our FK here. So let's switch it back. And the fighting style we're going to use for this one is very similar to a boxing pose. I'm going to choose a similar style, so even though the character looks different, for right now, for the basis of this exercise, we're going to just choose the same type of fighting style that the other character has. We're going to place the character into a boxing pose. Ooh, that's a terrible pose. We're going to fix that. So even though it was looking good to the side, it doesn't look good from the front. So we will make sure it looks good on all sides, just in case, very similar to how we did here, just in case we tried to move the camera, we really want to make sure that it has a nice balanced pose the entire way. Now I know I've been using one screen here to do this, but let's go ahead and set up our view here just so I don't have to go back and forth between what looks good on the camera and what looks good. Because you can even see here that even in the camera view, this doesn't have the same strong pose as here. So we're gonna go ahead and give them a little bit of a stronger, wider stance. Now, while I would usually say make sure you're using reference, for this one, I'm kind of looking at the other pose here. I'm just kind of, I want to mimic it to some degree, but I don't want to make a complete mirror it, just so it doesn't look exactly the same. But I am looking at the pose that we have. I mean, let's get this to look just as good from the front. And posing is one of those things you can just keep tweaking until you get it as right as you possibly can. So I think this looks a lot better. And it's a pretty good mirror to the other side. I don't think there's any, I think this can probably go back a little bit more. Right, to really set that weight. Okay, so I'm going to hit S on my key. I'm going to hit S on my keyboard, and that's going to set a keyframe on here. If you go ahead and change the timeline, it should be fine. But if you set another key, it won't set. So for the auto key to set in place, you do have to press the S one time first, and anything after the fact will set its own key. All right, so that is the first pose. So right now, especially for this one, we're gonna just set key poses to the same poses, the times they have here. If there's anything where I feel like, okay, we don't need necessarily a pose here, I won't set one, but for the most part, we're going to just go ahead and match up to the timing that the character has here. So the first move is he's prepping in for a punch here. So now the first thing is this punch is obviously not going to hit our character here. So I had set this pose up to be here to begin with, but we're going to adjust the pose, or adjust the location. So if we know for the most part it's going to be here, we can kind of eyeball it and change it up there. So let's say if we were to set it, well, key 1, and we can just move him a little bit forward, check back home frame 7, and it's there. Now we could move it a little bit closer to really double check. And after that, that's a good, like, even though it's not necessarily gonna go through the character, I think it's a good enough spot where, you know, if the animation is playing pretty quickly, you're not going to, if I were to make a reaction animation here, it would be believable that it was here. It would have been believable if it was over here, but it's a lot more believable if it's here. So we could make it a little bit, you know, closer if you want, but for me, I think it's good right here. So because the first move is a cross like this, we're going to set up a block. So the block is going to, be like a medium block, a very fighter game type of block where we're just blocking with the side of our arm. You know, nothing too complicated. For the purpose of it, especially a defensive character, I really want to do strong poses, and you want to sell the animation hit, right? Because a big thing about these fight choreographies is that it's not only just the character who is doing the attacking, it's the character who is receiving the hit. If the person receiving the hit is not phased or not 100% selling the hit, whether it's supposed to be strong or weak, then you kind of, you know, you lose all of that momentum. So you want to make sure that the character is doing its best to give that performance that, oh, I needed to do this dramatic hit in order to sell the power of my attacker's punch, right? So from here, we're doing something like this, where now, because now I crossed it over, now it does look like that he was potentially going to hit him. Let's raise the shoulders up a bit. So we want to have it hit the side of that arm there. Okay, I think this one looks good, right? So, well, of course, we've got to remember to put this in our step tangent. So, right, so now we have here this move here, right? So now it looks a lot more like, okay, well, this move was gonna hit me in the center of my chest here, and then I went ahead and blocked it. I moved to the side and blocked it. So it does look a little bit more believable, right? And what we're gonna do here is on the same key here. For the purposes of this, I believe I probably would do it beforehand, but maybe even after. But for the purpose of the stepped animation, we're gonna show the anticipation to the block. Now, the character could very well, and I'm just doing this to show you, could very well just go into this move here, right? So he does a punch, but if you can see it, even in the fast motion, let's see, it's different. So you can actually just rotate the loop here. So you can see that even if it's here, you may think, oh, okay, cool, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with just moving into this pose here? What happens is you're not selling anticipation to the pose. And now this may work in a realistic fight, but because we are animating, we kind of want to showcase the movements as it would be in like a film. So here on frame 4, we're going to do a little bit of an anticipation for it. Now, the more exaggeration you do to the anticipation, the more dramatic, it will be. So something like this, not much, but we're going to raise our arm here. And this is kind of like the anticipation pose. All right, so let's step it all out. Right, so let's see if a lot, so that's the flow of it. So it's up, down. So we're gonna do a little bit more anticipation to really sell it, but I don't want to do too much because it's only 3 frames. So I don't want to make it seem like it's this big move that they're about to do. I need to make sure that all this is instepped. Okay, much better. All right, so now from here, the only thing is I kind of want to make sure that it looks, get my animation lines here. So there's like a little bit of a line coming up if I do this. What is up with my tangents here? Let me just make sure. Officially stepped. Okay, let's try this again. All right, much better. I think this looks good. All right, so now that we have this, now we move on to our next pose. Now this one is going to be what? That hook, right? So we haven't animated it, so we're going to give another move here. So our assumption is that he comes and swings and he comes all the way around for that pose. So what I think would look good is this pose here, this character kind of going under and dodging this hook. So, okay. So I think so while we're here on this side anyway, we're going to go ahead and do this dodge from the same side, and I'll explain why. Because the anticipation pose is going to be on the right side. So it should make a little more sense once we add the anticipation pose in, but we kind of want to make sure that this character is rotating the whole way. I feel like that probably should be exaggerated a little bit more. Hopefully it's not too exaggerated. No, I think that looks good. So now from here, what we're gonna do is the anticipation, we're gonna prep on our right side. I'm gonna prep on our right side. Very similar to maybe our start pose. We're gonna keep our arms up, keep our knees bent, because we came from the block pose, and we're gonna go underneath. So we're going to keep this bent here on this side. Let's see. Don't know why this doesn't stay stepped. All right. I don't think that one works. Let's see. I think it's better if it's a instead of it being I think it works out better. So especially if it's a boxer, instead of it doing a duck like this, I think it'd be better if it do a weave. Stopping here. All right, so now we see, let's look at our, so we're moving a bit. I think we have it on a different timer, which is fine. Put it here. I think that it works a lot better. Okay, so we have our block, dodge, and then we're gonna move on to he's gonna go for an uppercut here. Now, what I want to do is give my red guy here some moves. So this is our prep move. So we're gonna go ahead and set our animation here, but I'm gonna change this uppercut into a block and give this character here a hit. So just that it looks like it has a little bit more of an exchange of moves back and forth. So let's see here. I believe we can move this up. And then for my weight, we're going to go against, because this is going to be a high kick. for this leg here, I'm going to change it to FK. That way it's a lot easier to go ahead and animate this, which you'll see once we start moving it in our linear tangent. It's going to make a lot more sense. So from here, we're going to turn some more. It's actually a pretty good thumbnail pose here. Really nice action pose. Bring this back some. And then bring the leg up some more. I think that looks good for the most part, right? So we have our, we're not gonna be able to see it. So we have our move set here. So we have our kick, and let's do our prep. So we're gonna bring this torso up a little bit. And I believe move his foot forward, because that's how we're gonna restart repositioning our weight. This foot up. And then just start bringing it up as if he's ready to prepare for that kick. Okay, so that's not necessarily the greatest of poses. Let's go ahead and just keep working on it just a little bit more, just to really, you want to be able to tell exactly what type of movement this character is doing. think this nice curve here kind of works it a little bit. And this arm here is prepping for that recoil. So I think here, kind of have an idea like, okay, this person is pulling all this weight here, lifting this up, probably going for a kick. So instead of it being really an uppercut, it now kind of turns into a block. And to really make sure it's a block, we're just gonna change this hand to here. And let's open up our fingers just a little bit. Now we could try to bring it down a bit more, where he's really like blocking with the hand. But I think this is a little bit more this works a little bit more because the moves are going to be a little bit too fast for me trying to catch the leg here, but I think it works. Or we could have it, because we have, we could kind of play around here. So you have an option of turning it around and doing it this way, but I think it's just weird to do that whole block on the inside there of your arm when you would most likely, and even though the arm isn't moving, the hand position kind of gives the intention of the attacker or the blocker of what he's trying to do. Like something like this would make a little bit more sense. Okay. All right. Thing looks good. Now from here going forward, right, he's gonna be coming in and doing this block here. Now this is gonna be quick, right? So here we have some time here until this. So most likely gonna reset here, then do a block here. So we don't want to move too much from the current spot because we're not gonna have the time. It's only 10 frames from doing so. So we're gonna keep it pretty simple. Keep him in the same spot here. So when the motion goes, it's a little bit easier to follow. Maybe we can even bring this back just a tad, just to kind of give us some visual space here. But I would probably bring it here. And do another block. Okay. Let's bring this back down to the floor. And then for this block here, we could do a dodge, right? We did a block, dodge, and then we'll do a block, dodge, right? So we have a block, dodge, hit, and then we could do a dodge, block, or another, yeah, I think a dodge block would work. Dodge, dodge block. So block, dodge, hit, dodge, block. So from here, to do that, I would probably want to do it and keep it as simple as possible. And do, I don't know if this counts, I don't think this is a slip. But then this is just a, look. But we're going to angle our character to really lean back to emphasize the dodge. But we're going to shorten his neck so it feels like he just made it. And bringing up the shoulders shortens out the neck too. Then leaning this back some. I think that's a good dodge pose. And it's really, get in there. And now for the opposing character, even though in camera this kind of sells, you know, it's in good practice to make sure that it looks good all around. So from here we're gonna just adjust it to be here, just for the key pose. He's probably gonna overshoot anyway during the animation, but just for now for the key pose, you know, we'll have it here, and that should sell because as soon as he comes down, we have that. He most likely will just come down, ready for this hit, and then dodge. Like that. And then we can have our, if I don't do a reset, so the reset, especially if it's this close, I would want it to look similar enough to here, but it's gonna look like, and when I'm middle mouse dragging and gonna copy, so then it's gonna happen here. But I wanted to have it, his center of gravity a lot closer, so it feels like he's more unprepared of what may happen. And even though this may not be necessarily a main pose, a little bit turned so the momentum kind of keeps the same, and let's have our arms up. as if we're in the middle of deciding what we're gonna do. You know, what is the move? How are we gonna go ahead and embrace this move that's about to happen? I got how that works. Let's get the silhouette here. And I'm working on two poses at the same time, but they're kind of in tandem with each other. It's in our right pose. I think that's better. Well, I'll be honest, I do not know why this is not setting. If I drag, and I'll give that a shot. Okay, so now we'll do the block, call it a Dragon Ball Z block. This pose is going to be the same. His middle pose is going to be the same, but maybe just step backwards a little bit more. So something like this. So instead of it being here, we're going to step back a little more. We'll bring this foot back. So now we're walking. Let's open up our waist here, just to kind of get a little bit more, because now we're a little bit more in control this time, instead of being outside of control. And then we're going to make this a bit more exaggerated. Maybe not that, I don't know. I mean, that is pretty... back so. What we're doing is we're bracing for this block here. And I moved on to the last pose. And these can be adjusted. These poses can be adjusted. We're gonna bring this arms in and get a nice, the arms cross, the Wonder Woman cross, Dragon Ball Z cross, Wakanda Forever cross. But this cross of the forearms to go ahead and get this block going. Bring both arms in. And then I'm gonna go ahead and give him a little bit more of a stable footing here. Probably still bring it back some. Looking at your opponent. Angle to your opponent. Now I could shuffle this back a little more, just to give it give it a little bit of a stronger silhouette. And I think that should do it. And now we have our red character blocked out. All right, so we're just responding to a lot. Since the other character is doing a lot of hits, I figured we'd do a lot of dodges and blocks for this one, so it's a little bit easier. And since we're following the same principles and copying the same poses, it kind of fits into what into responding to what the other character is doing. This character's throwing a lot of punches, so this one's going to be a lot of blocks and dodges, but we're going to change it up by alternating between blocks and dodges and the types of blocks and dodges. We put a hit there in the middle, so it has a little bit of exchange, but he's very much more so on the defensive side, even moving backwards while the character's moving forward. Let's go ahead and bring this. All right, so in the next video, we're going to go ahead and start cleaning up our characters. We're going to start cleaning up the animation so it's a lot more cleaner and a lot more smoother, so we can really get a gist of exactly how the characters are going to move and how it's going to work with this fight scene. And it should be really fun. All right, guys, I'll see you in the next video.